I'm Jennings Martin reporting on the West Virginia football team from the Greater Atlanta Airport in Atlanta, Georgia, where the West Virginia team under Coach Jim Carlin will arrive in just a few moments. For West Virginia, this has been a great season, a record of 9 victories against a lone defeat coming at the hands of powerful Penn State. It all culminated in an invitation to the Peach Bowl game on Tuesday evening at 8 o'clock against the Gamecocks of South Carolina, another fine football team. I know that you West Virginia fans are looking forward to seeing the Mountaineers in action in this, their first Peach Bowl game appearance. And we'll be talking with Coach Jim Carlin and some members of the Mountaineer football team in just a moment. Coach Carlin.
Yes, sir.
Good to see you, Jim. How was the flight down?
Fine. How long have you been here?
We've been here since yesterday. I understand that there's a little bad weather up in the Northland.
We've been playing in snow for 2 days.
Okay.
We've had some rain and snow this morning.
How are the boys?
Real good. Real good.
How was the flight down? And did
Good.
you have
Excellent flight.
anything as far as injuries that came up in the last few days of
No.
practice?
We're in good shape. Everything's fine there.
And this is like coming home to you because you played your college ball at Georgia Tech here in Atlanta, and I know that you have many friends down here.
Right. It's a lot of friends, but still they're enemies today, I guess.
I know this has to be a thrill, Jim. No matter how many bowl games you go to, this has to be a thrill.
Well, anytime you go to a bowl game, I don't care. Of course, at Georgia Tech, we went to 10 or 12 in a row, and it's still a thrill to me. When it doesn't become a thrill, then I think the youngsters have lost the answer to being a success.
Well, of course, Jim, last year you passed the football a lot. You had a great receiver in Oscar Patrick. Oscar was injured this year, had to undergo surgery, but he's with you. And I know that, of course, he's going to feel a few twinges of anxiety about not being able to play football.
Not as much as I am. I twinge more than he does, I tell you. Oscar Patrick's a great football player, and we'll miss him. We missed him since the first ball game of the year, but that's part of football. Everything doesn't go good all the time. We'll just have to play with what we have.
And no other serious injuries to hamper your team that you know of right now?
Not right now.
Okay, Coach Carlin, nothing but the best.
Thank you, Jennings.
Coach Jim Carlin has done an excellent job in his 4 years at West Virginia, coming up with a 9-1 record and taking the Mountaineers to the Peach Bowl. His counterpart, Coach Paul Dietzel at South Carolina, has done an equally fine job. Coach Dietzel, you must have a wonderful football team in South Carolina this year with that fine 7-3 record. And in the Peach Bowl, do you expect a pretty tough ball game from West Virginia?
Well, we think we have a fine football team. I felt before the year we were going to have a fine team. We had some unfortunate moments during the year, Jennings. A lot of things that we would like to do over again, like replay about 3 games, but unfortunately you can't do that. I know West Virginia would like to replay one themselves. And I always remember the ones that we lost, not the ones that we have won. We think we're very fortunate to be here. Being in bowls is not an old hat for South Carolina just yet. And very frankly, we're delighted and thrilled to be here. When we had an opportunity to come, we knew who our opponents would, the choice of our opponents would be Nebraska, West Virginia, or LSU. And when he told me all 3, I'll tell you, all 3 of them sounded so doggone good, it didn't make any difference which one it was. We just said, well, frankly, we don't care. We just want to come. In other words, it didn't take us too long to say yes. All we said was, yes, we will come.
In just a moment, we'll be talking with West Virginia head football coach Jim Carlin as he holds one of his final practice sessions for the Peach Bowl game at nearby Westminster School in Atlanta. Coach Carlin, do you feel there will be any undue pressure on you or your ball players in the Peach Bowl game?
No, James, there's pressure to win any football game, and all I want them to do is play as well as they can play and then let the outcome follow where it will, although we hope we win.
Now, of course, South Carolina is certainly able to move that football with Suggs and Muir and Ziegler. You like to emphasize defense, and I'm sure that you must have some idea of what their game plan will be.
Yes, and yet I don't, because I know Dietzel at Army changed his whole game plans for the Navy game, and this is a big ball game for him, and he's had 3 weeks to prepare for it, so he may change his offense and his defense a little bit. Although we know they're the best offensive team we've played this year by their talent. I think their offensive line has been the real surprise to them in the last 3 games. They've gotten better, and they're as big as Syracuse. They're the biggest offensive line other than Syracuse we've played against.
How is the Atlantic Coast Conference? Is it a relatively tough conference to play football in?
Well, it is, because you can tell they never win more than 6 or 7 ball games in that league, and they swap out with each other, and then they play tough outside teams like the Southeastern Conference. So they've played a good schedule.
Now, of course, your fine quarterback, Mike Sherwood, hasn't passed the ball nearly as much as he has in the past this year, Coach Carlin. I know that you like to keep that football on the ground as much as you can.
Well, we do what it takes to win, Jennings, and with personnel, last year we threw with Mike because we didn't have an offensive line. Our running backs were awful young, and Mike is a better thrower this year than he was last year. In fact, Mike is the key to our football team. He may not be getting the write-ups, but he's the key. He's the one that selects whether Braxton or Gresham or Eddie Williams or gets the football or we throw the ball, and he's automatically on the line and calling his own plays. Sherwood's a great quarterback, and I didn't say that last year now.
Mike Sherwood, I know in your junior year that this has to be a great thrill coming to the Peach Bowl.
Yes, sir. It does something, that you look forward to all your life. You watch them on TV every New Year's. You see the bowl games, and then finally you find yourself there.
Mike, of course, last year in 1968, you really passed the football and set all kinds of records for the West Virginia. Of course, your receivers were just perhaps a little bit more talented, especially with the loss of Patrick this year. This year, the Mountaineers have stayed basically to a ground game, especially in the latter part of the season. What is your feeling on this?
Well, of course, I like to throw the ball, but we're winning, and there's really not much you can say when you're winning, as long as you are. And I enjoy the running game, but not as much as I do the passing game.
Do you think there will be any undue pressure on you or the boys because of being in the national spotlight, so to speak?
Well, there'll be pressure, but I really don't think anybody will really feel the pressure because, I don't know, we're just treating it like another game, just preparing for it the way we did all of our games.
Is this the way Coach Carlin talks to you, that men, you have to go out there and just play a football game and play a good one?
That's right. He just tells us to go out and play our game and play the way we're capable of playing, and that if we do that, then that's all we can do.
This must be a little bit of a thrill for your coach, having played down here for Georgia Tech in Atlanta and then coming back to his home ground, so to speak.
Right. He seems to be pretty happy about coming back to Atlanta.
Now, getting back to South Carolina for just a moment, with their big boy Fred Ziegler as a receiver, what kind of patterns do you expect him to run?
He runs the out route, which is my favorite route in football. It's the toughest to throw, but they run the out route, and it's the hardest to defend, so they're going to move the football a little bit on us. Offensive, they're going to move the football. I just hope we can contain them from scoring and get them down in our end zone and shut them off, but they're going to move the football. They're very versatile. They can run inside, or they can run outside, they can throw from anywhere, and the little Suggs boy can scramble and run.
How about your practice sessions? I know that weather was not always the greatest in the Morgantown area, but in your practices for the Peach Bowl game, do you feel they were adequate?
Well, not really, but that's something you don't discuss. You just forget it. There's nothing you can do about the elements. And we were lucky to have the AstroTurf, and it saved us, really. If we hadn't had AstroTurf, we wouldn't have gotten to practice a day. We practiced in snow the last 10 practices. It was either snowing or snow on the ground, and we were taking final exams, but we decided to come to a bowl game. We knew those things were going to happen to us, so we're just going to have to adjust the best we can.
Coach, we've heard a lot about South Carolina's All-American, Warren Muir, a young man who certainly can run the football.
Well, Muir's a real good one, plus Holloman's a good one, their other running back. In fact, more explosive. And then the little Suggs boy, they again have an outstanding offensive football team, in my opinion.
Are they the type football team that will throw to the backs coming out of the backfield?
Yes, definitely. They throw to a lot of people. The Ziegler's our basic target, and then if you start playing him double coverage, and they blow the backs out and throw in inside routes a lot.
Coach, I know you're proud of all your football players. They certainly have worked hard for you in your 4 years at West Virginia. But we get to defense now, and I think that we all have to pay respect to Carl Crennel.
Well, he's the best I've ever coached or been around. He's a gentleman, and he's a winner, and he's a great football player.
Well, this is the well-used football helmet of Carl Crennel, the Mountaineers' fine middle guard, second-team UPI All-American, in many people's mind, first-team UPI All-American. Carl, do you think that, of course, when you work on defense, you have to certainly take pride in being on the defensive unit, do you not?
I believe so, because every defense wants to be, the number one in the nation, and no defense, I'm sure, likes an offensive team to score upon them. So naturally, most of the defenders are going to do their best and play the best of their ability.
Well, Carl, of course, it's been a fruitful year for West Virginia, and it's all culminated in coming to Atlanta to play in the Peach Bowl against a very South Carolina team, a good South Carolina team. This must be one of your biggest thrills.
It certainly is. I think since I started playing football at West Virginia, all I've been thinking of really is getting to a bowl, and finally my senior year, the team has worked together and played together, and we finally come up with a winner, I believe. And although South Carolina is a very good team, our intentions are to beat them in the Peach Bowl.
Carl, you have aspirations to play pro football?
I'd like to give it a try if at all possible after my college career.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt about your being drafted. Where do you think the pros would use you? As a linebacker?
I believe so. If they draft me at all, probably be as left or right linebacker, I hope.
Okay, Carl. Very good luck.
Thank you very much.
Hold it still. Hey!
Well, Jim, I know this has to be a great thrill to come to Atlanta and play such a fine team as South Carolina in the Peach Bowl.
Yeah, I'm sure, like, going through the season, we all been looking forward to going to a bowl game, because we had what we figured a pretty good team, so we're happy to come down here.
Has it been a good, rewarding year for you personally as far as the West Virginia schedule is concerned?
Yes, it has. This is probably my best season as far as running, and I kick a little bit and do a little bit of everything, so I'm glad I can do it.
If you looked over the Mountaineer offense and had to pick out a spot that you think might be weak, what would it be?
On the offense?
That's correct.
Well, I figure, I guess, our split receivers, because of Oscar not being here, but Schools and Kaiser's done a pretty good job as far as wide receivers this year, as far as I'm concerned.
Of course, Jim, you ended up 9-1 on the regular season, that one defeat coming at the hands of a pretty powerful and good Penn State team. What was the team's reaction to dropping that game to Penn State?
Well, we knew they were going to be tough, and it would be our best game of the year. And when Oscar didn't play, it sort of must have been a letdown, because Oscar is our best wide receiver, and we knew we had to throw against him. And like our running game, when Oscar had to go, couldn't play, they had to put a linebacker inside, otherwise they double team Oscar, and we had to play a different defense.
Well, of course, you and your buddy Gresham, I think, work very well together, with you running Mr. Inside and him Mr. Outside. He certainly has had a good year.
Yeah, I'm glad Gresham had a good year, because last year he started out pretty good, and then he got his elbow hurt, and I'm glad to see him come back, and hope I can help him out as he helps me out according to the seasons.
Okay, Jim, do a good job.
Thank you very much.
This is the football field at Woodward Academy, a school located just about 5 miles south of Atlanta. And this is where the Gamecocks of South Carolina will hold one of their final practice sessions as they ready for the West Virginia Mountaineers in the Peach Bowl game of December 30th. In just a moment, I'll talk with Gamecocks head coach Paul Dietzel and some of his fine players.
Keep her running.
Well, Coach Dietzel, we're not going to tell anyone. Can you give us any indication of your particular type game plan for the Peach Bowl game against West Virginia?
Well, I think the biggest thing is we're going to try to do what we do best, and our game is a pass-run football game. We don't we're not the kind of a team, especially against a team as powerful as West Virginia, we're not the kind of a team that can just stand out there and hammer it out with them. And then, of course, our football year long has not been that kind of a football team. We're a team that passes and runs. And on defense, I guess we have suffered a great deal because we're not a real big football team. But we have to make up for the amount of size and strength we have by enthusiasm, and we have had that. We've got a great bunch of young men. I've enjoyed coaching them. They're just about as fine a bunch as I've ever been associated with, and I think it's a real tribute to them that they brought us to this bowl. I'm very proud of them, and I think that being here in the Peach Bowl is a distinct honor for all of us at Carolina. We're delighted to be here, and I honestly feel that our game plan will resemble the same game plan that we've used all year long. We really haven't changed it much for this game.
Well, Coach, of course, this bowl business is not really new to you. With your LSU Tigers, you did well.
Yes, but that was 182 years ago. It's been a while since we have been bowling. I've been in a lot of all-star games in the between times, but it is nice to be back in a bowl. I think it's a great incentive for a team, and it's also kind of a reward for doing a good job. We try to make it a reward and make it a reward for the team, but as I've told them, when you play in a bowl and you don't win, it takes all the fun out of the bowl. The fun in playing comes in winning, and that goes for a bowl game or any regular season game. I remember one year at LSU, in preparing for the game, I must have made some mistakes because we lost that bowl game, and I remember that one so much better than all the others.
You and Coach Jim Carlin of West Virginia crossed paths before?
Well, not actually coaching-wise, but Jim and I are old friends. We have been together numerous occasions. We have actually kind of been teammates, more or less, at summer encampments for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I admire and respect Jim very much. I think he's done a great job at West Virginia, and I think he has a tremendous amount of talent. And this has been proven by the job he has done at West Virginia in just 4 years. So all things considered, I'd say that Jim and the West Virginia team are certainly deserving of being here. Anytime you have a 9-1 record, I don't care who you're playing against, that's really wonderful. And then, of course, after you see pictures of them, you can see why they won, because they are a very aggressive, very strong, and extremely well-coached football team, and I know that they're going to be ready to play.
Tell us something about this fine backfield you have, your quarterback and Warren Muir.
Well, Warren, of course, is already been recognized as an All-American. He made first-team All-American fullback for the coach's All-American team, which, in my opinion, is the most accurate All-American. And Warren he's a throwback to what the All-American football player was supposed to be 15 years ago. He's a great boy, fine receiver, tremendous blocker, finest inside runner that I know of, and I might add, too, that he's a great team performer. He helps the whole team to get up. He's the one that kind of spunks up the entire team, and I'm very proud, of course, of him, and I'm very proud to have an opportunity to coach a boy as Warren, because he's a good one.
Warren, they tell us that you run with great balance. You're a stockily built player, although you're not exceptionally big for a running back. Do you have good speed?
Well, I guess I have average speed. I'm no flash.
What kind of offense can we expect from South Carolina? Will you do a lot of passing of that football, or running, or a balanced attack?
Well, we always go into a game with a balanced attack. We like to pass and throw. Of course, if they stop our running game, we'll have to go to the passing and vice versa.
Now, of course, West Virginia is touted for having a pretty good defensive team, so it may be rugged in there.
I know. We've been watching their films for the last 3 weeks, and they are really, really tough to run against.
Now, you played a very tough Virginia Tech team. Was this a good football team?
Well, I thought we had a few breaks, or they had a few bad breaks. They were a very tough team, and we were lucky to win. We won in the last 9 seconds on a 47-yard field goal, and it was a tough game all the way.
Now, you were 7-3 this year. Who did those 3 defeats come at the hands of?
Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida State.
And, of course, those are 3 mighty fine college football aggregations.
They are. They're all out of our conference, and because of that, we're still able to win the conference championship. But we did play some fine teams, and it's too bad we had to lose them.
Okay, Warren, we'll be watching you in the Peach Bowl in Atlanta.
Thank you.
Number 12, Tommy Suggs, is the fine quarterback for the Gamecocks of South Carolina under head coach Paul Dietzel. And Tom, you're going into this Peach Bowl game, and it has to be a great moment for any college quarterback.
It sure does. We've had a real good year this year, winning the ACC championship and then coming to the Peach Bowl. And it's nice to win games like the ACC and all, but now you're on national television, and that gives a real big inspiration, and we just hope we can put on a fine show.
Who's your favorite receiver out there? Who do you like to throw that ball to?
Well, it'd have to be Ziegler. He's all-time leading receiver in the ACC and got the best hands, I think, in the country. You put it 5 yards from him and he'll catch it, so he's my favorite receiver.
Coach Jim Carlin of West Virginia tells me that you fellas will be running a lot of down-and-out patterns, the out route, so to speak.
Well, we run it a lot. We don't have a real certain pattern called on most of our plays. Fred's so adept at picking the open spot that we just let him go where he wants to go, and I try to find him.
Well, number 80, Fred Ziegler, is the man who catches a lot of passes for this South Carolina team. Fred, I think it's 146 in your 3 years with the Gamecocks and 52 this season. So with that 7-3 mark of the Gamecocks, you've had a pretty good year.
Yes, sir. It's been most rewarding. The team has really gone a long way this year. And winning the ACC was a big thrill for us, and then the Peach Bowl was just another big added thrill to that.
What is your favorite pattern? What do you like to get free downfield?
Just a square out pattern. 10 to 12 yards and out.
And head to that sideline.
Yes, sir.
Now, you've scored 3 touchdowns this year, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Of course, many times a good receiver catches that ball at the 2-yard line, and then somebody like Warren Muir takes it in.
Warren takes it in from anywhere.
Now, in Tommy Suggs, I think you have a fine quarterback, and as a receiver, you would know that better than anyone else. Does he get that ball to you?
Yes, sir. He's what makes us go. I tell you, he's got a real quick release, and he just has a really good football knowledge, and he's just what makes us go.
This Atlantic Coast Conference is a pretty rugged conference. As you look back over this past 1969 season and had to pick out one game that was the toughest, what game would that be?
ACC?
In the ACC.
Well, NC State, I guess, because we knew we had to get by them to win the conference, and that was the one we had to win for the conference.
Now, what is your big rivalry within the conference?
Clemson.
Clemson, of course, you took them pretty handily.
Yes, sir. We were up for that game. We played a fine game, probably our best game of the season.
Now, of course, when you met teams like Tennessee, that was one of the 3 defeats. You met some really rugged ball clubs.
Yes, sir. Tennessee was a great team. We caught them when they were a little down, but I think we kind of hurt them when Mississippi took them so easily the next week.
What do you see for the Gamecocks in 1970? You think they'll be back with a pretty good football team?
Yes, sir. I think they'll be better. We got some fine red shirts and freshmen, and we should really have a fine squad next year, better than this year.
And, of course, in Coach Paul Dietzel, you have one of college football's greatest friends. I think a man who has really made a name for college football. He's been a credit to the game.
He sure has, and he's really brought football up in South Carolina. That whole state is just up in arms, as you can see by the number of people that are following us down to Georgia.
Okay, Fred Ziegler, best of luck. We'll be watching for number 80 in the Peach Bowl game.
Thank you very much.
Peach Bowl preview will continue in just a moment. Well, in just a very few minutes, these stands will come alive as the fans start coming in to see the 2nd annual Peach Bowl football game featuring the West Virginia Mountaineers and the Gamecocks of South Carolina. It promises to be a great football game. We certainly hope you've enjoyed meeting the coaches and a few of the football players from West Virginia and South Carolina. Our thanks to Coach Jim Carlin of West Virginia and to Paul Dietzel of South Carolina. We invite you to stay tuned now for the 2nd annual Peach Bowl football game from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Jennings Martin reporting.
Down 16. Hey. Up. Now. Here we go.
She come on somebody. You move up and get tied up. Where am I headed? Hard. So Jennings Martin walked in here.
Yeah, boy. What's up?